Moving to women's.
And also,
Particularly with regards to the diet culture and the inspiration and craft. Yeah.
Just under your name now. Or wherever you want.
I didn't go to the city.
so we've got a view that takes you near the question.
I believe. Imagine.
Interesting one. Okay, for the African Republic of Germany embassy.
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So you're happy to have him, you go first and then invite Mr. Bhatt.
Why is he not wearing a t-shirt? Ask him why is he not wearing a t-shirt.
I don't know.
What do you mean? Why not ask
Did you get feedback from
Those was bees actually.
you get feedback from our session, by the way? From our lecture station.
Yeah, you do a raving.
But the content, they like the
Well, how are you? Good.
You're out.
Yes, always.
No,
We got the. Yeah, these are mine.
That's why I said to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We're about to begin. Thank you to you all for being here today. Welcome to the Media Freedom Festival for 2023. So I'm Liesl Wilson. I'm a broadcaster, I'm a journalist. I'm also going to be your MC for today. And really on behalf of all our sponsors here today, including the Embassy of the Republic of Germany, Media Monitoring Africa, Media Development and Diversity Agency, and the SABC in no particular order, I'd like to welcome you all today for this event, this festival that's taking place over the next 3 days. As you know, we're going to bring media issues to the fore. We're going to bring human rights issues to the fore. And we're also going to look at ways of strengthening media freedom in South Africa, perhaps also on the continent. Some of you got the memo, some of you not, but you're still a day early. Tomorrow is Media Freedom Day, and it coincides with Black Wednesday. Anyone know anything about Black Wednesday? Anyone besides William? Right, so Black Wednesday is Media Freedom Day. That's what we observe in South Africa. And on this day, on the 19th of October, 1977, the apartheid regime banned media, independent media. They outlawed several anti-apartheid groups. You had editors from the world, such as Percy Qoboza, who were banned. They were detained, in fact. And so on the back of that, you know, we have to look at ways in which media has played its part in bringing truth to power, in holding government accountable. We also have to look at ways in which, during our 30-year democracy, the strides that have been taken, but also where we can continue to strengthen the media in South Africa. And so today's session in particular is going to focus on that with the children and the youth in the venue today. And I'm really, really excited to hear your voices. On that note, I just want to actually welcome William Bird, who is the Media Monitoring Africa Director. He's going to do some opening remarks and welcome you all, and then we'll get kick-started with the program.
Good morning. We've got a full room. That's very lovely to see. So I'm William Bird, and I'm very happy that this event is finally coming to pass. It marks day one of 3 days of festival issues celebrating media freedom. And we're starting with one of the most, if not definitely the most important elements, which is focused on children and their relationship to the news and media freedom. And it's because we consider children to be so fundamentally important that we wanted to make sure that we kicked off the event with this particular discussion. Children account for what percentage of our population? He looks to the young table below him. What percentage of people in our country are under the age of 18? Anyone? Hands up. Anyone know this other than Jermaine? And Pagamile? Okay, the answer is 35. According to census figures, it's 34. 35% of our population are under 18. And yet our media represents them, and guess how much of the time? Anyone know this figure? What percentage? When we look at the news, how often do we see or hear, no, never mind here too, how often do we see children in the news? Anyone want to have a guess? Nope, it's not 5. Sharks, what are you saying? 6%. 34% or 35% of our population, and yet between 6 and 10% of our news actually features children. When we look at how often they speak, it's even less. Children speak around 4% of that 10%. In other words, the chance of you ever hearing the voice of a child in our news is close to 0. And that's a diabolical thing, given the fact that we're here to celebrate media freedom, because media freedom doesn't just apply to us as adults or to the old farts or the rich or certainly not the poor. It applies to children. It applies to everyone. It's why we want to celebrate this right, because media freedom counts for everyone. So as we gathered here, Giselle gave a lovely description of Black Wednesday. We need to just think about the fact that we are here to celebrate media freedom in its diversity. That means for everyone that's coming over the next 3 days to think about how each of these elements impacts media freedom. We're going to be discussing AI. We're going to be looking at hate speech. We're going to be looking at whistleblowers. We're going to be looking at media freedom broadly. And we're also going to be looking at online harms and the election. So there's a whole lot of really cool stuff coming up. None of this would have been possible without a whole bunch of really cool supporters and partners. So when we were planning this sometime at the start of this year, we were speaking to friends and colleagues at the SABC, and we said, as the public broadcaster, it's really essential that you are linked to and associated with media freedom. And they said, yes, this is the most obvious thing. We really need to partner fully on this. And that's what SABC have done. So we're really thrilled to have the public broadcaster as our official media partner for the Media Freedom Festival. And then, of course, you'll see that there are a few other banners here. One of the bigger ones among them, well, the others aren't actually up yet, I've noticed. Our friends from the MDDA, Media Development Diversity Agency, a critical body that fulfills such an amazing role in terms of ensuring diversity in our media. They support hundreds of community media, and they're also supporting this particular series of events around media freedom because they too see the importance of it. But you'll see that the other one there is the German Embassy. And in fact, the German Embassy have been friends to MMA for the last several years now, seeing how they can help support and realize and protect media freedom. They've got a fascinating public broadcast model in Germany. There's all sorts of really cool things about the way that they run their broadcast media in Germany. And they've got very strong relationships with South Africa. But because of their commitment to democracy, they also said, yes, we think this Media Freedom Festival thing is a good idea, and we'd actually like to see if we can support it too. So we're immensely thrilled that they've seen fit to support us. So the fact that we're wearing very nice shirts today is indicative of that, and that they're nice banners, and that there's food, because otherwise you would all have been meeting in a car park somewhere and we would have been chased away, because that's would have been how MMA would have done it. So I'm gone way over time, but I want to just thank every one of you for coming here, our friends, our supporters, our Redneck fans. We're all here. Thank you very much for being with us. I'm going to ask Christopher to just come and say a few words, and then we'll get things underway. Thanks.
Thank you, William. Just about. Hi, I'm Christopher Schmidt from the German Embassy. I'm the spokesperson there. And I just would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all here in Joburg, and also hi and welcome to everybody who's joining us online. Thank you very much to MMA, to the SABC, to all the other partners for putting together this incredible series of events. We have to say, I think you really hit the nail on the head in terms of the topics that you chose. I think over these 3 days, we're going to deal with the most pressing issues that the media landscape is facing today. Media freedom is the cornerstone of democracy. These are not my words. These are the words of the German Constitutional Court. The new German Constitutional Court coined this phrase in one of its first landmark decisions after the Second World War and after the horrors of the Third Reich. Media freedom is the cornerstone of democracy. And I think it's easy to understand why. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy lives from the participation of its citizens. And in order to be able to participate in democracy, citizens have to be well informed. And in order to be well informed, they need independent, free media. So thank you very much to MMA, to all the partners, to all the experts who are going to be here with us over the course of the next 3 days. And knowing MMA, as William said, we have been cooperating for a number of years now. Knowing MMA, I'm sure that this event will not only be educational, it will also be inspirational, and I'm sure we're all going to have a lot of fun as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Christopher. We barely made, Christopher and I barely made it up here. Yeah, no, I cheated a little bit because of the heels. All right, so on the back of those opening remarks from Christopher and William, I'd like to kickstart the first session of day 1 of the Media Freedom Festival. I'm actually going to allow you all to help me welcome our panelists. We've got 4 in attendance today. The first one is Phakamile Madonsela. She is, if you could, as your name comes up, please make your way to the stage. Phakamile is the Public and Media Skills Development Manager at Media Monitoring Africa. Next up, we cannot have this conversation without the youth. And so on that note, I'm going to welcome Khomolemo Pui from St. Matthew's Secondary School. Welcome. Khomolemo is also part of the Web Rangers Article 12. They'll explain a little bit later what they do, but in essence, it's a digital literacy program. So I'm looking forward to learning more from you, Khomolemo. Welcome. Next up, we've got Reggie Mulawusi. No, Reggie's not coming in today. Sorry, we've got Ayabulela Koro, PR consultant, formerly at the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. Let's welcome Aya. Are you also going to struggle to stand? Okay. And last but not least, we've got Jermaine Kricher, award-winning journalist, author, and trainer. Jermaine's career spans well over 2 decades, and she has a passion for storytelling and also amplifying the stories of those whose voices remain unheard. So welcome to you all, and thank you for being part of today's discussion. Let's give them another round of applause. So I'm just going to quickly run through the order of events. We are going to have a panel discussion with the 4 on stage. A tea break will follow. Thereafter, I'm going to welcome the Web Rangers Article 12 learners on stage. We'll have a quick Q&A with them. Whoever wants to be part of that, you're more than welcome to, no pressure. And then we're going to have a Q&A, open it up to the floor. Thereafter, we'll break for lunch. Sound good? All righty. So I'd like to start off this discussion. Pagamile, let me start with you. We've seen some strides that have been taken in terms of children's rights, their visibility as well, public safety, support for mental and physical well-being. We've also seen that a lot of these learners, or children rather, have access to a digital world before they could even walk and talk. So from your vantage point, what would you say is the nature of childhood today? What does the 21st century childhood look like?
That's a difficult question because I'm no longer a child. And so whatever I'm going to say here is not a true reflection or reality that we find ourselves in today, right? So I think that question is best suited for the young people that are in the room because they are able to give us a glimpse into their lived experience. And that's why they possess such a unique feature when we have events like this, because they are able to share and give us a glimpse of something that we no longer have access to.
Okay, so
so I can pass on the mic.
you can pass on the mic. Khomolemo, are you going to take that one for us?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. So we're looking at the world that children find themselves in today. And I just wanted to know, perhaps as a child, your lived experience, what does a childhood for 21st century child look like from your vantage point?
Okay. Compared to your youth, our youth is very,
Sure.
it's very quickly advanced in digital technology. We have access, most of us have access to the internet, leading to an unsafe world that we are not trained for, that we are not equipped to be in at that stage. Majority of us, young people, emphasis on that. Yeah, emphasis on that. Majority of us, we are able to access the internet, but not safely, which leads to a lot of problems. A lot of cyber ills are caused due to parents allowing children access to the internet without proper training or guidance on that. So for us children, it's a very relative thing. We don't see it as, yes, we are on the internet. Yes, it shapes our perspectives on things in a particular way, but it just changes the way a family dynamic works, whereby parents give guidance on, yes, I will allow you to be on the internet, but there are a few restrictions. So it's a thing of the family must be aware of what you are doing because the internet is quite broad. There are a lot of things. Some of the things children are exposed to because there's no parental guidance. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Actually, you're all mic'd up, right? Yeah. Okay, so I won't pass the mic. If there's a problem, then I'll pass the mic. Thank you. Thank you for those sentiments, Khomolemo. It's actually so befitting because there probably is that divide between the older generation. I know for myself, I'm not too far away from you. I like to say I was a 90s kid, and we had the privilege of knowing what came before the digital age, and then we transitioned into that. So I am the bridge to a better world. Thank you. But on the back of that, there is the disparities with between the older generation and what you are exposed to. So let me bring Pagamile back into the conversation. Now, you worked on a paper with Aislinn Delany and UNICEF. And the topic of that research paper was how do children engage with news on social media? There were a few pointers, obviously, that came about as a result. And I wonder if you could sum up the essence of what emerged during that research paper for us, please.
Sure. Can
I think your mic works.
Oh, lovely. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm the Public and Media Skills Development Manager at Media Monitoring Africa. And what that entails is looking at how we can look towards the vision, the bigger organizational vision around creating an informed and engaged citizenry. And so research helps us to do that, right? It helps us to understand how we can build or develop projects or programs that enable an informed and engaged citizenry. So earlier on in the year, together with UNICEF, Media Monitoring Africa, worked on a paper to explore how children engage with news, particularly on social media. And how the research paper was a small scale research that was not representative of South African children, but it looked really at the how children engage with social media and also tried to answer the why. So why do they engage?
Do you have your phone in you?
No, I don't have my
Okay,
phone.
does anyone have their phone in them?
I do.
I think it might be interfering.
Okay.
I might just maybe switch it off. And
No. Just digital problems.
Okay.
Sorry, do continue,
Yes.
Pagamile.
So we took it upon ourselves to try to better understand how children engage with news on social media, because as Khumulumo rightfully put it, is that they are more advanced in terms of the digital world. They are living with technology hand in hand. And so it's really important for MMA and as well as UNICEF to be able to understand how children engage with news, because we understand the importance of news, and that's why we're all here today, right? We understand the importance of news and what it does for children, what it does for society, but what it also does for children in terms of creating an informed and engaged citizenry, and also strengthens democracy and enables us to engage and participate in democratic processes. And so the research was really about trying to understand how children engage with news, and then also answer the why. Why do they engage in certain types of news, and how they engage with certain types of news. So we, like I said, was a small scale, 48 students from 2 provinces, Gauteng and Free State. We used 2 instruments to gather participants' data, and we used, so the one instrument was the focus groups, and the other one was the survey. So we did a week-long survey with young people, and we placed it in their everyday life. So every day at 7 o'clock in the evening, they'd get home, they'd be sent a link on a Google form, and they would just tell us what they did on social media that day. It was really just that basic and that simple, because we wanted to understand, get the raw data from their lived experience. We didn't want to impose, did you watch news today? What kind of news? We wanted to just see what they did on social media and if news featured in their everyday experiences of engaging with social media. And the key findings was that, so we tried to look at 5 questions that we wanted to answer. And the first one was around, what is the social media diet of children between the ages of 13 to 17 look like? What it looks like? And by social media diet, we mean just like your everyday diet. So you would have protein, vegetables, fat. And so we're also trying to, so when we say social media diet, that's what we're trying to see. Is the variety and diversity in the social media engagements that they're involved in? And so what we found was that TikTok and YouTube came out as the most commonly used platforms, followed closely by Instagram and Facebook. So sorry, TikTok and YouTube was the most commonly used, followed by Instagram and Facebook. And then we also looked at how much time they spent on each platform. And we found that an average child from the children that we interviewed and engaged with, from 30 minutes to an hour on each platform per day. So if your child is on all 4, they're spending more than 4 hours a day on their platform. That's a lot of time, right? And obviously the adults are going, oh, because that's a huge concern. And so obviously if they're on social media for 4 hours a day, we want to be able to say that they are engaging in a diverse content while they're online, right? And so the next question was, to what extent does news feature in their social media diet? And here we found that when we asked, so we first asked, what's your understanding of the concept of news? And we found very varying kind of concepts. On the one hand, we found that they had said it was new information, current affairs information that they were processing that is new to them. And on the other hand, we found that they were saying things like drama, events-based. So like gossip and drama and gossip that's happening was also regarded as news for them. Very interesting, right? And so across the spectrum of the kids we engaged with, all of the learners except the 13 and 14 girls from both the Gauteng and the West and the Free State said that they don't engage with news. So it was only the girls, the 13 to 14 girls in Gauteng and Free State, the Northwest, sorry, that don't engage with news. All of the other children said they engaged with news on a regular basis. And one of the statements I want to just quote, open quote, from the girl, one of the girls of Gauteng, 13 to 14, they said, "I have no feelings about the news because it's not important for me." And that's very important when we get to the recommendations and what some of the tips that they had shared about how journalists can make news more engaging for them. And then when I asked them, do they trust the news that they engage with on social media? All of them said no, they don't trust the news. They trust traditional media, but they still, despite not trusting the news on social media, they prefer the news on social media. So it's like, I don't trust my doctor, but I'll continue to go to that same doctor, right? Yeah, very interesting again. And maybe talks about like accessibility of other activities that young people can engage in. We can have that discussion. And then the third point was that we didn't have enough data to conclude on how much time they spent on the news. So on the news websites they were on, while on social media. So some would not tell us how much time did you spend when you engage with the news on social media? How much time did you spend on that? The third question was around the quality of news. So now that we know that they engage with news, what is the quality of the news they're engaging in? And we found that the most popular types of news was celebrity news. It came out as #1, undefeated. It was celebrity news. And then next was political news and then sports news. And it also was associated with a certain feeling. So celebrity news made them feel encouraged, inspired. They were looking for role models. And excitement, there was also an element of excitement around the gossip and the celebrity, the following celebrity and influencers. Political news, there was a split. Some said that they were feeling informed and empowered, especially around load shedding, around things that happened with COVID. So they felt that they were empowered with new information. And then frustrated and angry, especially around state capture and the issues around the political landscape of South Africa, news that were coming out from there. So despite engaging in the three different kinds of news, we felt the concluding remark was that it was still not diverse. It was dominated by celebrity news, dominated by trending topics. So even when they were looking at political news, it was around very big trending topics like load shedding, Eskom. And it was also limited to events and not issue-based. So they were looking at events. When something happened, then that's when they would want to engage with that. Question number 4, to what extent do children possess skills to identify mis and disinformation? There was also a split, some saying that the girls from both Gauteng and Northwest said they had a natural feeling when it came to mis and disinformation. That they could just sense that it had a sixth sense around this information was not correct. And the boys had said, the boys from Gauteng, the 15 to 17, said that they had strategies around verifying if the news content was correct. So they would see it on Instagram, go check it out on X, and if it's on X and Instagram and another platform, then it must be true, right? And we commend them for having strategies, but we found that there were still limited strategies, and oftentimes they fell to finding or believing mis and disinformation because they had limited strategies. So pointing to another thing that Khumulimo talked about around digital literacy, making sure that young people, when they're online, they know how to decipher between mis and disinformation, for example. The last one is around tips for journalists to positively influence children's engagement of news, and we can explore this later on in the conversation. But just the gist of the summary in that question was that they wanted to see more young people in news. So they wanted to see more young people in news, being in the news, speaking in the news. They wanted a summary of the news, so less words, more videos, more images, and in audio if possible. And obviously with that, we want to challenge young people with, in South Africa, only grade 4s, 82% of grade 4s can't read and write, right? For understanding exactly. So we want to challenge that with young people to say, yes, videos, yes, audio, but we also want to strengthen issues of reading and understanding and reading for meaning. So yeah, that was summary of the research.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Actually brings me to my next point. I want to bring you to the convo, Jermaine, then I'll have you follow suit. On the back of what Pagamira just echoed now, how can social media influence children's engagement with news? And in the same breath, how can they unplug and have deep, meaningful conversations? What are you observing on that front?
Okay. But I think also it's quite important to mention that as part of my experience with MMA, at some point I was the editor of the Children's News Agency. And what that did was quite a remarkable idea, actually, to get children themselves to be reporters. And a lot of the questions that we got when we tried this initiative was, why don't you just publish children's stories on newsletters? And we said, no, because they need to be part of the national discourse, right? So these were children who were collecting stories like other journalists, would sit together on a weekly basis, have diary meetings, explore their stories, that go out to collect the information, and would print it in the Sunday Times, City Press, and Sowetan, amongst other journalists, right? And part of the discussions that we had was sort of trying to find out the topics that were relevant for young people. And I think, again, that this is something that traditional media missed, but also where social media is trying to make the stride. So the reason that children are so interested in the news that they're consuming on social media is because it is relevant for them, right? And also they see themselves in it. So it's young people who are talking about issues that are relevant to them, who are using the same tone, and who also look like them, right? And this is something that we often miss. So if I'm switching on the news and I see an anchor there, firstly, it might be a male voice, so they might be dressed up in a tie, and that's already off-putting, right? Just from an aesthetics point of view. So it's that question again about how do we make social media relevant for youth? And social media, I think, is making strides in there. And your second question, sorry?
It was just how they unplug from the digital world, exists, or they're more present in this world. Understanding the issues of the day beyond trends.
Yeah. So I think the other trend there is again this point that to a certain extent, traditional media missed the mark when we were dealing with essentially the rise of digital media and how to really then cater also for young audiences. So young audiences felt excluded, as we've heard, which is still the case today, because only 10% of or 6% of news is about them. So what that says to a young person is that this has nothing to do with me, right? So it's about revisiting that conversation and really looking at what is it that we're packaging in the news and how do we deliver it, right? Because then once you start to answer that question, then suddenly you get a new audience that says this information is relevant. And also it's not just event-based reporting, but there's also opinion pieces on this. There's also feature pieces on this. And there's a diversity of sources that we were looking into, right? And then suddenly then it's a new model of looking at news and how it's packaged, and also then encourages young people to this sort of unplug themselves and to engage with other forms of news outside of the digital space.
I'm listening to you and I'm reminded of Trevor Noah and how he got that right the world over. He lost some of the older audience members, but gained millions the world over by engaging in the youth. So that is a very valid point. And thank you for those sentiments, Aya. Jermaine, let me bring you into the conversation because representation is clearly important. And so at this point, as practitioners, how do journalists begin to positively prioritize children? And perhaps looking at the issues that is coming to the fore in the media, is there a will, firstly, given the age group of the media practitioners, do they understand that digital world? Are they on TikTok? Do they know what's happening there? And really, how should news be targeted for different age groups then, given the understanding and frameworks?
I think it's really interesting what you said. One of the questions you asked is how do we get young people to disengage from the digital world? And the question is, why should they? How often do you disengage from the digital world? And is it necessary for them to do so? Shouldn't we be asking how we can get them to engage meaningfully with the digital world? When I've been walking a long path with media monitoring, and it's been a process of learning and unlearning and relearning, and I'm still learning. And this report highlighted something for me as a practitioner, and that is that as much as I'm incredibly aware of keeping children's voices centered to my stories, that I don't just report on children, I do child-focused, child-centered reporting. Everything I do is to keep the child in the room with me. Even when I'm doing that 100% correctly, this report has shown me that I'm still only doing 50% of my job right, because I am not engaging with children as my audience. I'm engaging with them as topics and with sources, as people, as citizens with agency and with autonomy. But even after all this time of doing what I'm doing, this report made me realize that I am not seeing children as the audience that I'm writing for. And I said, kudos, you guys keep making me reevaluate my foundations and everything I think I know and everything I think I'm doing right. And conversations like these are important, because I need to go back to the drawing board now. Because as a journalist and as journalists in the room, we know and we take our duty to inform and to educate incredibly seriously, right? That is our responsibility and that is our duty. Why do we only feel obligated to perform that duty for 65% of our people? Why do we not feel that same duty to inform and to educate for 35% of South Africa? Why do we think they only deserve to know the moment they turn 18? And we have these conversations about children. We love making them these little angels and going, they're our future. They're the future of South Africa. You know what? For 35% of the population, this is not the future. This is their present.
Yeah.
Why are we not engaging with them and allowing them to engage on their present right now? It's not about our future. It's about today for them. And I think if I had the answer, we wouldn't be having these conversations. We need to go back to the drawing board. We need to find ways. We need to come with creative ways to engage, short video form content, perhaps. Even as adults, we're seeing that that is how people like to consume news. We don't have to tailor it specifically. That is how people like to engage with news on social media. We like captions because we can watch things at work with nobody knowing. You know, you can have your little video open. And really looking at the end of the day, when we're doing stories, every story that you do, whether it is about climate change, whether it is about the economy or finances or grants or cholera or xenophobia, there are children affected and there are children who want to know. When you're looking at queer issues, when you're looking at women's rights, when you're looking at abuse, when you're looking at success stories, every one of those topics, there are children involved, there are children affected, and there are children who want to know. 35% of our population wants to know. We don't tell, I always say we don't tell children stories. Children are capable of telling their own stories.
Yeah.
It's our job to amplify their voices.
Yeah.
We just have to give them a platform. If you think children don't have value to add, you have not spoken to a child recently. They are fully formed humans with opinions that will rock your very foundation.
Yeah.
The moment you start engaged with them, and they will change everything you think you know about any issue or any belief that you hold. And we're actually doing ourselves and our country and our continent a disservice when we're not accessing them, and not just as sources, but as our audiences.
Feel like she deserves a round of applause for that. Thank you. Thank you for those thought-provoking sentiments. You're absolutely right. I feel like dropping the mic and saying we can all go home now. Thank you. Komalemo, let me bring you back into the conversation. On the back of what Jermaine has just echoed now, from your vantage point, what are the types of news and topics that's relevant to you, that for you and your peers? Where do you think we're missing the mark in relating to you?
I feel like all news topics are related.
Okay.
But the distinction between the interesting one and the relevant one. All these topics are relevant. But those are like interesting. That pump up our curiosity and want us to engage more with them.
So what does that look like? Bring me into your world.
Topics like celebrities, about trends, social media trends, pop culture, entertainment. But that's what interests us as children or teenagers. Yet there are relevant topics such as politics. Of course, as the outgoing generation,
I think he's going to be a diplomat or a politician, one of the two.
Yeah, we are going to have that, and it's going to be a period whereby there's going to be a shift between the types of news being consumed as teenagers or children. At the current state and at the level that traditional media is going through, there are transitioning process between engaging with teenagers or children. There's going to be a rapid change, meaning that children won't want to engage more with traditional media compared to social media. That's why media says that first issue is that the information or the news we see on social media, we don't trust it. But if the traditional media continues going this way of not trying to engage with other teenagers, there's going to be a shift where we are going to start trusting social media.
Yeah.
And the internet is quite broad, as I've said before, and there are going to be those type of people who create false or disinformation there. Thereby, it will sort of like overshadow us into seeing what's true or what's not, what's relevant in the current moment or what's not. An example would be like the one in Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere currently. But the way the traditional media engages with us, compared to if I see a video on TikTok, that's more engaging to me because it's under my social technological economy, like my biosphere of the internet. That's where I am. That's where I engage more. That's where I feel comfortable to trust this type of information. Compared to if I was to watch the SABC.
Shade, no shade? No, it's a safe space. You're welcome to share your thoughts. Thank you for that.
Interesting news topics are those that pump up our curiosity. They want, teenagers are very, very wild. We love engaging. So like topics that keep us pumped up, that keep us instead to engage more with them, to want to know more. We are very curious people.
Can I ask you something on the back of that? I know that the outgoing and older generations, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. So aunties, uncles, community members, everyone plays a role. And now in digital world, you're obviously extending that to strangers, right? And this is often really people that you don't know and can't vet yourselves. And I wonder at this point, what you think the role of educators are, the role of parents are, guardians, in assisting you along that journey, finding the tools that can help empower you, perhaps also helping you to know what not to do.
As I'm here, I'm not a one-man show.
Yeah.
Like myself, with some fellow architects.
Okay. Do you want to save that for our discussion a little later on? Can you guys think about that? The role of parents, educators, and the community, just given that you're exposed to so many strangers, what would you want to see? What role would you like them play? Can you think about that? Okay, I'm going to find you after the tea break. Thank you. All right. I think perhaps, I don't know how much time we have. We've had to let go of our phones because of interference. Nomshado, are you able to give us an indication as to how long we have? Should we be wrapping up? Okay. All right. So the conversation doesn't end here. We're going to have a tea break. Thereafter, we'll come back. There's a Q&A. We're also going to invite more learners on stage. We will engage further. But thank you to you all for your time. Hagamile, Khomolemo, Aya, and Jermaine. Let's give them all a round of applause. You've earned yourselves a well-timed tea break. So we've got about 15 minutes or so. We'll reconvene back here in 15 minutes. I don't know what the time is. And then we'll continue with the rest of it. As I mentioned, is what time they should be back. Okay, perfect. So I'll see you all at 11:15. Thank you.
Okay, so who's gonna go and say?
Wasn't me. I have a Yvette. Yvette, I have a roving mic, brother. Let me use it and pass it on to you guys. Are you sitting over here? Yeah, then I'll pass it on. Do you need a chair?
That's mine. Thank you.
Yeah, this can work. Yvette, we can use this as well. Yeah, okay. All right. Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. All right, so, okay. I'm not sure the mic is on. It looks like we're ready to begin again. I hope that 15-minute break was worth it and you're refreshed. We're going to continue again. As I mentioned, I'm going to now welcome children from or learners rather, from the Web Rangers Article 12. This part of the program is actually going to hear from them. So we are going to ask them some questions, and those who are willing and able, no pressure, you're welcome to answer some of the questions that we pose to you. Thereafter, I'm going to extend it to the rest of those in attendance. If you've got questions, please feel free to raise your hand. And I'm sure there's going to be a roving mic that can meet you when you're ready. All right, so we have different learners from different schools. If you can, as you answer, just stand up, introduce your name, your school, and then you can answer the question. You got that? You happy with that? Okay, awesome. So are all the learners over here, or are they? Okay, awesome. So the first, so we obviously were having conversations earlier on, and there were some general sentiments, right? So now we want to bring you all into the conversation. We heard about the report that had been conducted by MMA and UNICEF. And so my first question to you all is, we did hear this quite a lot, but I want to know from you, what are the types of news content that you engage, or topics you engage with? Does the news feature there for you at any point? If whoever wants to start can raise their hand and go, and then I'll pass the mic to them. Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Agwande Ntuli and I'm from Bogolani Senior Secondary School. So in response to the question, I said, for me, how news is displayed and presented is what matters most to me. News that concerns celebrities or sports is mostly advertised in a more interesting and more engaging manner that interests me to watch it. While in the other hand, news that involves politics or ongoing fights in other countries does not seem interesting to me, since it does not reveal how the events affect my day-to-day life. For me, news should prioritize showing how the featured articles affect our lives as young people, like how the COVID-19 pandemic was displayed, instead of only focusing on how it's affecting the economy or even the management of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe you can pass it on to the next. So whoever wants to answer next can take the mic. I'm going to ask the same question. Whoever wants to, they're welcome to, and then I'll ask the next question. What type of topics do you engage with on social media? Okay. Would you like to try? Sure.
Hi everyone, my name is Mutawa Moahi and I am from Mokoli House. Can you please repeat your question?
Sure. We were trying to understand what type of topics you engage with on social media. Does the news feature at all there for you?
For me, not always. News doesn't really appear on my feed, and the type of content that I watch is mainly like political news and celebrity news as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. So the next, so I'm actually going to now go into my next point from there, because I wonder, and this is something you touched on, so thank you. Does lingo matter Does language matter? Does having a background or an explainer to what is happening in the news cycle matter for you to want to be engaged? This was something that Jermaine had touched on. Does this help it make it more relevant for you? You know, you've got those quick explainers. You've got lingos like the math is not mathing. I don't know. That's the most I know. That's the most I know. Khomolemo, please
Hi,
answer that.
everyone. I'm back. Okay, so to your question, as the Article 12 group, we focus on submissions regarding policies and making them more child-friendly. So even with the media, we believe if there was to be a sense of child-friendliness language, whereby all children can understand the language that is being spoken, not the formal type or the boring type, but engaging, make it more interesting, hook us into the topic. Don't just make it bland or just appeasing to only adults. Everyone should be and can be involved in the media and news consumption. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else share a similar different point? Okay. Perhaps we could then look at the challenges and concerns you have about the consuming social media and news. Does it get overwhelming? Do you feel like you have the tools that assist you to understand what is true, what is fact, what is fiction, misinformation, disinformation?
Firstly, good morning. My name is Busisiwe Daza from Immaculata Secondary School. And yes, there are any news-related challenges or concerns I have as a young news consumer. For example, algorithms. These are a set of news or rules used by social media platforms to prioritize content and limits what you like to watch on your social media platform, which is dangerous, especially for children who don't have digital literacy skills, because they can come across disturbing content like people with food disorders, suicidal people, and violent content. This means they are only getting one viewpoint based on what they follow and watch. This action makes it difficult for them to make an informed decision about the conflicts. And another issue is that the mass media is unable to fulfill our needs by making news content that we can analyze and understand. And this makes us a generation that is ill-informed about current affairs and mostly important about environment. Lastly, we would like the journalists and news anchors to offer both relevant and entertaining news, which is also informative and educational. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, it sounds like you're all hired and you can teach us. Literally, I think that's the best way to go. Maybe we can wrap up this portion of the chat by just looking at the question I asked Khomolemo when he was on stage, and he said that he'd like to extend it to all of you. So it's not limited to his perspective. Khomolemo, let me start with you, and then we can go into some of the other learners who want to speak. We were speaking about the role of educators and parents in influencing the way you consume news, how you interact with it, even social media at large.
Okay. I have notes on this. I have
Sure.
notes. Okay. Parents and teachers often they should be able to provide with us with critical thinking skills. We must be able to quickly decipher between relevant or mis and disinformation in the media. But majority of the time, it's not done. We are not blaming the parents or educators, but we are blaming them. From an early age, when a child grows up, as from the get-go, we spoke about the type of childhood we are facing in the digital age. From an early age, parents and teachers should be able to sort of like mold a child's perspective on the media and news and the digital world at large. It must not only be focused on whether you're having games on your phone or not, but all types of things on the media, from the basics of you watching SABC or you being on TikTok, such things are necessary. Parents should enforce that type of skill in children to quickly think about the types of news they see on the internet, whether is it interesting, relevant, or safe for them. Because of course, there are news topics that are not safe for children, even though they are a topic. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I hear you loud and clear, and it's what Jermaine had spoken about. It's important to know that we all need to learn, unlearn and relearn. Maybe parents and educators could be afforded some grace. They're also navigating this new world. I think the history of our country and the socioeconomic factors that affect a lot of our population is also coming to the fore in terms of survival. So it's just some of the things that I would think about on the back of what you said. But thank you for those sentiments. Anyone else want to add on the back of what Komolemo just echoed?
Good morning. So I wrote a few notes so that I can remember. My name is Rufa Matambuye. I'm from the Digital Academy. Both educators and parents can promote media literacy, teaching to individuals how to analyze and interpret media messages. This includes understanding biased propaganda and the difference between fact and opinion. Parents often influence what their children are exposed to by controlling their access to certain media. Educators can recommend age-appropriate materials in educational settings. Parents can serve as role models for responsible news consumption if children see their parents engaging with news in a thoughtful and balanced way. They are more likely to adopt similar habits. Both educators and parents can encourage individuals to consume news from a variety of sources to get a well-rounded perspective and avoid echo chambers. Parents can create an environment where children can feel comfortable discussing current events and asking questions. Educators facilitate classroom discussions on relevant topics. Overall, educators and parents have a crucial role in shaping the media habits of next generation, helping them become informed and discerning consumers of news. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything else to add on that front? Thank you. Thank you to you all for speaking up, for making your voices heard, for speaking on behalf of all the children who are not here today. It has not fallen on deaf ears, and we're also learning from you. So thank you for being open to that. Let's give them all a round of applause. Right, so from the learners at the Web Rangers Article 12, I'm going to extend it to the rest of the floor. Anyone else have any questions as we conclude? Sure. All righty. I don't know what is easiest in terms of the roving mic, but I see you've got the mic here. Could I ask you to please pass it onto the table behind you, and then okay, the ushers can navigate the rest. All right. Maybe you can just introduce yourself, the media house, the publication, or what you're representing today, and then you can pose your question to whoever you deem fit. Hopefully they have an answer.
Okay, morning everyone. My name is Prince Malaka from University of Wits, and I am master student by research. So mine is not actually a questions, but like this thing is. I feel like it has an echo. Okay. So mine is not actually questions, but it's more of an input based on what they have produced or what they have articulated. Because I have highlighted here that you brought in the concept of parental role in terms of news consumptions by the youth and the younger generations. And the speaker who was seated here, I just forgot her name. She also mentioned a very important point that as media houses, we tend to talk about kids, but we don't involve them. We make them the topic, we make them the subject, but we never give them a platform to engage. So from my point, I'd say if we were to merge these two, if we were to, when we say we talk about issues pertaining to the kids or to children, let us bring them to the table. Let's have them discussing or engaging. For an example, today's discussion, you've brought up the kids to the discussion whereby they contribute their inputs and their experiences. But like most of the time when you go to media houses, SABC in particularly, you'd find that they talk about kids, they talk about issues pertaining to kids, you know, but they never allow the kids to have a say in those discussions. So my point here is that as media houses, to make news engaging, we have to bring in the voices of the kids or of the younger generation to the play. Let them be heard, let them say what they have to say about their personal experiences. You know, unlike just saying, you know, as kids must do this, kids will always do this, kids must do that and stuff like that, or kids done that and that, without having their point of view in the discussions. So that's my contribution.
So thank you for that. So you're speaking to the issue of representation and
Yes.
restoring agency, because the
Yes.
story is complete without those voices, without their voices. So thank you for that.
Yes.
If I could sum it up in a nutshell. Someone next to you also wants to say something. Just on the back of that, SABC does have a kids show,
Yeah,
and it is
the
hosted
presenter
by
is there.
kids. Yay, okay, I took your job. Sorry. Yeah, but thank you for that. Let's keep the conversation going. Whilst we're having this hashtag MFF 2023. So hashtag MFF 2023. That's how you can keep it going online as well. Sorry, sir, continue.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Sanele Kamete from UJ Communications and Media Studies Department. Mine is basically a question that could be directed to our younger generation. They said we are outgoing, and maybe the guests that were here.
Sure.
I'm embarking on a project for 2024-2025, which I hope they will borrow me their time probably next year for a focus group where we're looking at communicating issues of climate change to young people, because they have been sort of like left out in the conversation in many times, as they have highlighted that they want to hear this serious stuff, but they need it to be kept, you know, informative, interesting, and all of that. So maybe to just pick a brain from them to say, how would we, I know I'm unpacking this before I actually do it, but it's quite interesting to say, how can the media probably communicate the issue of maybe climate change to you as the younger generation? Because it's quite interesting to hear that you want to be involved. And I think you should be involved because you are the generation that is going to carry this country through. So maybe how, and then she spoke of representation as well. Maybe she can also try to come through to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanele. I think extended to that is even NHI as an example, right? Where they're going to be the ones who live through those decisions. So lots of other topics coming on the back of that. Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Mhlonhlo Buhle Geleba, and I am with SABC Kids Newsroom, which is a show that caters to children's news. So I've got about three inputs and a couple of questions. I started in children's broadcasting at the age of 12 years old at a community radio station in Mdantsane called Mdantsane FM. And we did a show called Kids Parliament, where we used to read letters about children's concerns, whatever's happening really in the community, right? But what I've come to realize over time is that there is a lack of humanizing children's thoughts, right? So what happens is that children's thoughts, so I've transitioned at different stages from from being a child broadcaster and then going into the stage of broadcasting to children, right? So children's thoughts are not necessarily humanized, and so are their productions within the spaces, because it's just like that thing on the side, you're doing it for children and you must just get the production going, or let's just continue, right? So there is a skepticism that is within the space, and it's not necessarily directed to any production company, but it's a trend that happens within various media spaces. And I would like to certainly appeal to colleagues and within the space as a conversation of how do you transition in making children's news humane and children's thoughts humanized. I understand that it is a vulnerable group, and where the guidance, which leads to my second point, comes in. I think that it's important to regulate the information that children are getting from social media. For example, we can package or phrase what is happening in the conflict of Palestine and Israel. But I don't think that it is actually appropriate for children to be seeing dead bodies of other children, which is something that is consistently online, where the educators as well as parents need to step in to guide and to regulate the amount of time and what they are looking at. It is not incorrect to teach about the conflict or to teach about what is happening socio-politically or geopolitical conversations or wars across the globe, and humanitarianism, which is quite important. So I think the regulation, I think our colleague Jermaine was saying, do we actually regulate or do we disengage children? But I do not think that it is actually appropriate for children to be seeing dead bodies of other children with the graphic images that are actually coming out. So I think there's a lot more investment that needs to be taken within children's production, because you will have a child broadcaster, but they don't work in isolation to perhaps broadcasters or production crews that are working maybe for a prime time or that are working for a social political show or a traveling show. So I think it's the sensitivity around the broadcasters, the children that are within the space. And lastly, the skepticism that I was speaking about is that our generation, and because I'm exposed to both of the generations, is seen as just the content creator generation. You get there, I start snapping or I do whatever the case may be, but you'll find that the views and the engagements that you will get from those videos or from the platforms or what you have actually uploaded do spark engagement. And we must not stifle children. You know, children just say whatever they would like to say. That is where we need to start pruning and sort of guiding where they can channel their contributions in what's happening in society. Thank you.
One person back there. You was there's another one to take.
I just want to say, media monitoring isn't very good at shameless self-promotion. I'm a lot better at it. They run a phenomenal reporting on children course. Every year, we're currently busy with it. We're sitting with 12 journalists who are all sitting in the situation who want to do things better. And if you're sitting here and if you've been inspired by what you've heard, reach out to media monitoring. We have the mechanisms in place. They have the systems in place that if you want to do it right and you want to do it better, we can help you to do that.
Easily the best.
Hi, sorry, I'm Lerato Ntwampe. I'm a social media lawyer. I actually had a question about whether the kids have heard of Kids News on SABC2 and SABC Plus, but obviously that has been covered. And then my second contribution was Khomolemo had touched on the war between Israel and Hamas. And I just wanted to mention, recently I was in a panel and there were two boys of Jewish descent, and they had mentioned that for them it was important to see what was happening in Hamas and Israel, because they're of Jewish descent, and you know, for them to go to the war one day, they wanted to see what was happening. And they had said that, you know, because there was an outrage which people or parents were being warned about, you know, what kids are seeing on social media, especially of what was happening in the war. And they were actually saying that they don't want their phones to be taken away. They want to be able to engage with whatever is happening at the moment, because they don't want to be reading about it like the Holocaust, as they mentioned. Which also touches on the point that the lady just mentioned of, yes, there is that balance of, you know, the kids mustn't see what is horrific on social media. And I think that's where regulation and social media platforms need to come to the party in terms of regulating and obviously censoring some of that content, especially for kids online. We are aware, obviously, that social media platforms, you have to be at least 13 years old to be able to see certain content on social media, but we know that that regulation is not being strict. There's no strictness, and parents are also not involved with kids and ensuring that the kids are not exposed to certain channels and online harms and online ills that are there. With that being said, I just wanted to ask, obviously there's a trending topic now, and obviously most of you are on TikTok, the fake doctor incident. Maybe some of you, it has come up on your feeds and whatever, but I just wanted to say, you know, obviously this doctor, the fake doctor, was sharing medical advice and so on social media. Do you guys have concerns? Because obviously most of you are consuming news and, you know, all these trends on social media. Do you have concerns and even tools to be able to help you decipher and discern what is real and what is disinformation and misinformation? Thank you.
Taking notes. Lots of adults talking.
Did you guys see the Dr. Lani on your algorithms? Okay, all right. Anyone want to respond to that? You want to think about it? Okay. No, it's okay. You can respond. Well, let's continue with the mic. I think we're almost done at the back, right? How many more hands are up? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. My name is Luvuyo from SABC Digital News. I think my question really centers around the research and also targeted towards the younger generation there in the corner. To say outside of the formats such as your celebrity news, your sports news, and your politics, what outside of the topics actually, what are the formats that would draw them into news? Because we've seen a lot of short videos such as stuff that we put out on TikTok do well. But I mean, for where we sit as a public broadcaster, we try and different other means to make the news kind of sexy and palatable in terms of your infographics and podcasts. But I'd like to get a sense from the actual group and the research to say, what are the formats that they would be interested in outside of the short videos? Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sinemi Vuyombulu. I am from the VoiceOver Factory. We are one of South Africa's most groundbreaking voiceover masterclasses. So we empower people. We empower young people across the African continent using their voices for work. My one question is the existence of traditional news outlets not in danger? There has been quite a rapid growth of edutainment platforms that have been formed by young people. If we look at platforms like podcasts on YouTube, a lot more young people are leaning into platforms like that. So is the existence of traditional news and media outlets not in danger, considering that there is a rapid growth of platforms that young people can consume news from?
What are you doing tonight at 6 o'clock?
Tonight at 6 o'clock, probably going home.
Okay, so I'll invite you to the session that's happening. It's the main event, and that's exactly the topic. So you're asking a pertinent question, and if you want answers, please come at 6 o'clock.
Well, if it's an invite from you, then I'm honored. I'll be there.
That was slick. Okay, so did you all make note? Do you want them to rehash the question? Do you all remember? Well, what works for you? Okay, sure. Sanele, they wanted you to rehash your question, please, and then there's a response. Homalema, you can follow suit, and then I think there was one more in terms of the formats that Luvuyo had alluded to.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Mine was mainly on communicating issues of climate change to you. How would you want the media to communicate issues of climate change? It's kind of an adult kind of a thing, but you guys need to know about climate change. So That's the project, and I want just to pick your view on that.
Hi, my name is Tino Tenda Kohoti and I'm from Immaculate Secondary School. So first of all, thank you for acknowledging the fact that as children, we need to know about climate change because it does affect us and it could be the end of all of us. So first of all, as the Article 12, we had already recognized the problem of people giving information out about climate change, but we as children are unable to understand or get to this information. So this year we made a submission. It was a submission about the general comment on draft general comment on children's rights and the environment with a special focus on climate change. So basically in the submission, we circled out what we would want to see in the general comment and how we would want it to be drafted so that even for us children, we're able to read it and we're able to analyze and we're also able to get information about climate change because it doesn't only affect adults, it also affects us. So basically what we would like to see is a child-friendly version, one with language that we can understand, and must be eye-catching because as children, we love colors and we like to see anything that catches the eye. So we would like to see that. And also, we would also like you to acknowledge that we spend most of our time on digital platforms. So if whatever you are releasing is going to be on a digital platform, then we are definitely going to get it. And also, yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that was helpful. It's clear that you can also engage with the Web Rangers Article 12 group, and they can obviously take it further. So, okay. Perfect. Okay. Pagamile, could he speak to you? Okay, Pagamile is available to take that. Komolemo, you also wanted to respond to one of the questions. Which caught your eye?
The question about Dr. Lani, the Dr. Lani situation.
Yes.
Okay, honestly, as I've honestly, as I've said before, parents play a vital role in us being able to decipher between mis or disinformation. At first sight, the whole Dr. Lani situation, I thought it was just a hoax, just something to shift the media, just for a while, a trend. And as trends go by, we've seen that a lot of people are now exposing fake doctors or fake people in certain professions. The Dr. Lani concern, at first, no one could tell that this person was in a real doctor. The person was so good at forging that thing. And that's something about the media. You can't really tell between what's true and what's not, unless it's been revealed to be not true. So it really plays a difficult role for us as children with delicate minds to see such and be, Mara, this guy was a doctor not so long ago. Now he's not a doctor.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that really, really plays with our minds. And like, we can't blame platforms, but the person or the people making it a trend in the media, those are at fault because they know that it's not true. And they're pushing a negative agenda towards that thing. So like, I didn't know personally that he wasn't a real doctor until like those sagas came that his pills are doing miracles to people.
Yeah, when he had a stethoscope in his ears, but it wasn't connected to anyone. The math wasn't mathing. But thank you for answering that.
Oh, and
yeah,
another question, I think a guy at the back said
Vuyo,
some,
yes, the format, yes.
Yeah, the format.
Yes.
Instead of short videos, anything that's interesting that you see, even you as an adult, you must see that this is nice. It's that simple. It's that simple. You as an adult should see that this is engaging. You would want more of this. If it's engaging for you as an adult at your big age, think of what it does think of what it do to children out there. So anything, as you've said, things like podcasts, there are a lot of podcasts around South Africa that are emerging and they're doing wonders in for children. Podcasts such as the Wally Berry Show, they're talking about issues that we as teenagers deal with. You're too old.
He's not, no. The answer is he's not the target market.
Yeah. Like those type of podcasts, things that we as teenagers are interested in. You can talk about politics, you can talk about Cyril Ramaphosa in a podcast for children. We would want to know more about what's happening in our country, but in a more engaging way. We don't want to read an article that's 4 pages long.
Ooh.
Thank
I
you.
don't think adults read that long in this day and age, to be honest, but thank you for that. Anyone else want to respond to the way you'd like to see content engage, come on your algorithms or social media?
Good day, everyone. My name is Nambulela Mzobe from St. Matthew's Secondary School. So, young people also have a strong appetite for broader coverage of topics in general, such as art and culture, activism and the environment, and the LGBTQ plus community. Reading news can often feel like a bit of a chore to young people. This helps explains the popularity of news visual storytellings like Instagram stories and short videos or visual, as well as longer, convenient format podcast. The latest study shows that young people are primarily driven by goals of achieving progress and enjoyment in their lives, and this translates into what they look for in news. They still need and want news to connect their world to the world and fulfill an array of different social and personal needs, but necessarily see the way news is presented to teenagers also play a vital role in shaping their personality. Traditional sources like newspapers, TV broadcast news, and radio station often provide relevant but uninterested news topics. In contrast, new mediums like website, podcast, and social media tend to cater teenagers interesting, offering more enjoying content. What is evident from the distinction is then the need for more balanced approach to news consumption. A balanced approach consumption both interesting and revealing news topics. While interesting news keep teenagers engaged and informed about trends, relevant information, and more comprehensive views of the world, and encourages civic engagement. All in all, we really want our voices to be heard and the changes of how media is presented to be changed so that we as young people can better engage to news.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. I don't know how much time we have left. Okay, sure. You know what? Let's I see 2 more hands. The lady right at the back. Let me take you, and then perhaps someone from this table. We haven't heard anyone from this table.
Can I start?
Okay, sure. So let's start here, and then we'll go to the lady right at the back. Okay, and then we'll have responses from the panelists if there's anything that was directed at them, and then we'll conclude. All right.
Good day to you all. My name is Carlos Tabia. I'm from UNISA. I'm currently a law student. However, the only reason I was actually here is to find out if the kids, if I can put this question to the floor and the kids, of course, is when it comes to the algorithm and the content that you are getting from media. Before I make the question, we used to get newspapers from high school. Like I grew up with a newspaper called Free for All. There used to be high school newspapers. There used to be circulars besides the newspaper, but the Department of Education, for example, which was someone I thought I'd see in this topic specifically because it does include them. How come they don't ask the topics specifically from the media and the department, the topics that the kids are looking for? I'll make an example of career guidance. They should be looking at things like what subjects you're going to be getting in grade 10, if you're in grade 8 and 9, after grade 10, what you go for beyond the high school level. So my question is, how come the kids don't do initiatives, which I didn't know there was a newspaper article for kids, but they don't get to pick the topics. They get topics from whatever is the narrative outside. It would be easier for the kids to make the news if the topics were relevant to the demographic, the socio-economic issues, like sports, for instance. On the side, I'm a sports journalist. However, I'm unregistered. I don't have an association. However, because I take photos of sports, I always have an issue of dropping them off at SABC. Like, for instance, like I'll leave something, but then it won't be broadcasted to the relevant people. So I'm trying to find out, how do the kids social economic challenges when it comes to media, how do they portray it, or how do they give us topics?
Okay. Loud and clear. Thank you for that.
Good day, guys. My name is Yelisa Qadi. I'm from SABC. I do digital data analyst. So my question is, are you guys as a media agency, you are focusing on children's from urban areas? Because I didn't hear you mentioning children's from rural areas. Like, for example, like I grew up in a rural area from Bizana. We don't know anything about media and all stuff. So at school, we were focusing on textbooks. Even those textbooks are still talking about the history of people that we don't even know them. So we don't even know anything about the media. Remember that the technology is updating each and every year, but I knew about the media once I went to the institution to do my first year for my first degree.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Let me
Panelists?
extend that to one of the panelists here. Anyone want to take that question? Pagamile? Yeah, Pagamile. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll be very short. So we do cater for all children in South Africa. We're in 5 provinces. The Web Rangers program is in 5 provinces. We are all over. We are everywhere and anywhere. This particular group is because they are a specialized committee working on policy submissions related to ICT and internet and children. And that's why you see them here. But we are over South Africa. We want to include more children in the program. We have an online platform that includes all 9 provinces. And if your child is out there in the Eastern Cape or wherever and wants to be part of the Web Rangers, they can easily go to our website, sign up and register and be part of that project. That's how powerful the Web Rangers program is. Definitely, that remains a challenge, and that MMA is continuously fighting against that. But for now, it's a big gain, right? We understand the challenges that exist with a free internet for all South Africans, right? We understand those challenges. But for now, that platform is available. All the young people that form part of our program receive monthly support, so monthly Wi-Fi support to be able to carry out the project. Yes, again, devices remain a problem. I understand those issues. And we, again, as MMA, we are constantly fighting to be able to get internet in schools, to be able to get free internet for everyone and free connection for everyone. But that is a big goal that I think that is a collective thing. It's not just web, it's not just MMA. It's a collective agenda that we are all fighting towards. Okay. The issue with the lady from the colleague from SABC saying that with young people, we have to be very careful about the content they're exposed to. Definitely, 100%, we are all on the same page, right? We're all working from the basis of the best interest of the child. But I think that media houses and journalists tend to make that an excuse not to cover certain issues and not to involve children in certain issues. That can't be our excuse, right? There's creative ways, there's ways in which we can talk about death. There's ways we can talk about tragedy. There's ways we can talk about sadness. We have a session with reporting on children in the media course that talks about sensitive reporting. There's a way in which we can do it, because to say that children shouldn't be exposed or shouldn't know about death is really, it's not reasoning, because children know about death. They know that people die. Right? And so there's a way in which we can cover those stories and involve them in those stories as we tell those stories in a way that is in the best interest of the child. And so again, we are offering RCM course. Jermaine is the facilitator, is the coordinator of that course. If people are interested, we can do it. We can do a 1-day stretch session where we invite colleagues from SABC and everyone who's interested to be able to do that. We want to empower journalists to be able to report and to involve children in their reporting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the panelists want to respond to any of the questions that have been posed?
I know that Web Rangers had questions.
Sorry, say that again.
I'm saying I know that Web Rangers had questions.
Do you guys want to conclude by asking some questions? Okay. Who wants to start? Remember that.
Hi everyone. My name is Khabisi Mutine from Macaulay House, and I wanted to ask this question to, well, everyone in the room besides my peers here. From everything I've heard and your thoughts on our youth and the news, I wanted to know, why do you think, what are your thoughts on why we do not care about the news at this age?
So why do you think we don't think you care about the news? That's a nice reversal of the question there. Yes, anyone want to take it? Outgoing generation, yeah?
Certainly not outgoing. But I'm like you, Lizelle. I'm a 90s baby.
We're the bridge.
We're the bridge.
Yes.
And I'd like to say that when I was growing up, we didn't have a variety of options. We had SABC 1, SABC 2, SABC 3, ETV, Mnet, if you were very privileged.
Yes.
And for us, there were a lot of programs that catered to us. Programs like Soul Buddies, Soul City. And that's where we were able to learn about what was happening. That's where I knew about bullying. That's where I knew about HIV. That's where I knew about TB, a lot of the issues, because we were exposed to those things. You knew that at 4:30, at 5 o'clock, you were gonna watch either of those programs, which empowered you with the information. So you guys are growing up in a digital age where you're exposed to so much information, so much, that sometimes it is overwhelming. And I understand this because I do a lot of speaking engagements with you guys as well, with kids. And I know that it's overwhelming to be on the internet. Sometimes you have no, because once you click on the video you like, the algorithm automatically gives you that content. There's no variety. You're not aware of what you can be exposed to. I know that a lot of you as well, speak in the corners about some of the issues that happen, online ills, sexting, all of those things, bullying, cyberbullying. You're exposed to those things because you're on the internet. So I think you're not exposed to the news because you've got a whole variety of things. You don't know where to start. There's Netflix, there's Showmax, there's YouTube, there's like all these options available to you, and you're just gonna go where you wanna go. When I was growing up as well, at 7 o'clock, I knew we were watching isiZulu News because we wanna watch Generations at 8. So you guys, you don't need to sit with your parents to watch the news because you can be on your phone, you can be on YouTube during that time. So I think that is my personal opinion on why you guys are not interested on the news.
Still morning. Good morning. Good afternoon. I nearly made it to the bridge. I'm the last of the 80s. My name is Mpumi Mbete, actually a former broadcaster for a Siswati radio station, SABC Legwalagwan. So my concern around representation is always on language, and language not in terminology, but the fact that there are children where I come from in Mpumalanga, 60% rural, forget access to anything.
Yeah.
The content just does not get there. I was not going to engage because I'm here in a different capacity, but for research purposes, but I was really touched by that question. It felt personal to me as a mother of a 2-year-old, 8-year-old, and 12-year-old. And I'm seeing flames because up until now, I could say none of my kids are on social media as yet, because I don't think they have the capacity to process anything as yet. But unfortunately, I can't live in that bubble for long, because I also don't want them to be ignorant of the world that they are living in. So I've got a very cool app on my phone. It's called Family Link, and basically allows me to monitor what my child is consuming, how much time they spend on the internet, what access they have, and I can block certain things out. But from about 13, 15, I need to start allowing them to process certain things. So to answer your question, very simple. It's easier for adults to say the young people are not involved, they're not interested, because it absolves us of the responsibility to facilitate that space. I would rather say CoComelon, take care of the toddler, and I have 2 hours to do exactly what I say they shouldn't do and scroll mindlessly on social media. So it is so much easier for us to just say you're lazy, not interested, and we were the better generation because we had soul buddies shoved down our throats. And it was also somehow integrated with the educational programs, because sometimes what we saw on TV would be discussed in life orientation. I went through that whole curriculum, that stage where we were on OPE, then we were not, then we were. So it's for adults to remove the responsibility from them to really sit down, switch our phones off, and talk to the young people and find out what it is they are interested in and what it is they've heard.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Tando Koti. I am the bulletin editor for Kids News. I thought it would be a disservice if I did not speak up at this meeting today. Where do I begin? Firstly, I wanted to say to the kids, your cry and your complaints about the media were heard by the SABC many years ago. Actually, our program is almost 20 years. It's been around for that long. And we've been providing the service that you guys needed. We've been packaging stories for children. And I think most of everything that you mentioned is what we do. Unfortunately, maybe it's not translating properly into numbers. Somehow, somewhere, we are failing to get to you guys. And I think maybe that's where your group can maybe help us to find ways of trying to get this program, which is relevant for children, to get to the children. So I suppose maybe it's something we can even do afterwards. It's something we don't have to do it now. But I also wanted to just answer your question, because it's a question that we ask ourselves all the time. Why do kids not want to, are not interested in news? I know I might not be a child myself, but I have been a child. And that's part of the reason and what drove me to get into news for children, because I remember myself as a child, how I used to view news. And the 2 ladies touched on a lot of reasons, on some of the reasons. But I think one of the reasons which probably prompted me to get into media for children was the fact that, which is also an indictment to some of my colleagues, was that the issue of representation. First of all, you'd watch news and you wouldn't see yourself. You wouldn't hear. And it's still happening now, where journalists go out and do stories of children, of events that affect children, but not one up sound from a child. Not one. You don't ask, I mean, you speak to everybody else except the people who are affected. So I think, and Kids News has done a lot to answer those questions, because whenever there's events, we send out vox pops, we ask, we go out on stories and we speak to kids and we find out from them exactly what is it that they have to say. And unfortunately, sometimes maybe adults don't listen, but there is that platform where we allow you guys to voice out what you need to say. The issue of language is also another a big issue that I find. First of all, not only the representation in terms of the languages available in the country, but also the type of language that is used in news can be so boring. You know, even now as an adult, I can watch news and then I have no idea what was just said in that story. So I think those are some of the things that we need to watch
as people who produce for children and make sure that it's something that's understandable. Like when we write our scripts, like I've got kids of my own actually. So sometimes I'll ask them, okay, did you understand what was said there? And you hear like, no, they don't. So maybe it takes a lot more to actually produce for kids, because you can't just write a script and it's ready like you would normally write for an adult. Maybe you have to go through it 10, 20 times. Give it to someone else to just try and filter it down, not the information, but maybe with the language so that we can reach everybody else. And I think we still have a challenge maybe with reaching, especially rural areas. I mean, my colleague was talking about how there is, there's no outreach, there's no media, they don't know anything, especially children from the rural areas. So I think that's also an indictment on us as the media, that maybe there should be no one left behind. You know, I keep on thinking that it's a saying from, I don't know if you've seen Trolls, but there is a part where the boss of the Trolls, when they were running away, and it's like, no man left behind. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that with everything that we produce, we don't leave behind any children. And just in case you didn't know, Kids News is on SABC2 on Fridays at 4:30. You can also find it on SABC Plus, and you can Lihaya, SABC Lihaya, which is DTT, but now they call it SABC Lihaya. You can find it at 4:30, and the repeat is on Saturday, SABC2 at 6:30 in the morning, if you can wake up that early. But anyway, just for the kids, so you know, there is a platform for you guys. Let's work hand in hand to make sure that South African children get to be represented properly in the news. Yes, and we do have a Facebook page. Please follow us on our SABC News Facebook page. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I see there's a, yeah. I mean, it's, everyone obviously in the room, I would urge you to leverage a network, right? Interact with people. You now understand who different people are. So please take advantage of that and take the conversations further. I have that will to act. Please do continue with your thoughts.
My name is Voyo. I just wanted to say that I think one of the things we do as parents is actually dumb down our children. I'm 44, I'm quite old. I'm very ancient, but I've got a 5.5-year-old son. So he's into YouTube Kids, he's into Netflix Kids. But an interesting thing that I noticed a few weeks ago was that the only time we listen to the radio, which is traditional media, is when I take him to school and come back. And he actually directs me to SAFM. That's his favorite radio station. And I sometimes wonder, he probably doesn't comprehend everything, obviously, that he hears, but there's something about him listening to conversation and listening to those topics. So I think it's an opportunity for a lot of the traditional media to really step into the digital fold and create content that not only speaks to kids, but involves kids, because they are aware or they are interested in that kind of content. Yeah. And we as parents actually need to direct them to such. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, I see there's also a hand at the voice. The voice wanted to speak. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I need to tone down my voice.
No, it's your gift, please. It's your gift.
But yeah, I think the issue here is localization. And in writing, localization is done a lot by journalists. They write in a way that accommodates the people in that specific region and according to their literacy levels. But I think the issue then with localization is that it's only been based on the understanding of people within that region and not based on age. So how about now storytellers or journalists narrow down their writing or storytelling in a way that accommodates the basic understanding of a 5-year-old? And obviously, taking away the very traditional approach or the very, approach that's very, it's not accommodating to us young people. So I think obviously the language, as the colleague here from SABC said, from Kids News, that the language obviously causes a division. And I think up until that is restructured, kids will lose an interest in any kind of stories that are being told out there, and they'll always rely on the platforms that are now emerging, like podcasts and many other platforms. So that is why I asked, is the news, the media in danger, considering that there is a rise of these platforms now?
And we're seeing you at 6 p.m. tonight, right? There we go. Thank you. Anyone else want to? Oh, there's one right in front, Aya. I think this might be the last. We'll save the best for last.
Why, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Nomvula Nkuna Wogamazibogo. I come from KCA Radio. I'm the brand manager there, also a school group brand manager. Now, in our delivery, we've had to be very strategic in regards to reaching the youth. We found that, you know, when our programs are administered by adults, the outgoing group, like for instance, if we are doing outside broadcast and we are at a mall, for instance, if it's the the elders producing the shows, you know, presenting the shows, and it's school out, because that's our target. We want to be engaging with school-going children. It is so difficult to convince them to come to the mic, but immediately when they see their peers, you know, they instinctively come through and want to ask, "Wetsalang, nenzani?" You know, and then there's excitement about township kids reaching and touching the mic for the first time. And then they want to inquire in regards to how you're my age, so how did you get to do this, you know? And then it ties in with our radio academy, because we are KCA Radio, online radio station, which is a campus radio. And then we are able to tell them that, you know what, there is Garabo Creatives Academy, where kids like you who are your age get to do what I'm currently doing at the moment. So peer-to-peer education is very appealing, and you know, it sparks interest if somebody is speaking your language. It's like if somebody comes to you and says, you know, and is greeting you in your language, you are immediately, you feel at ease, you know? So it's like if somebody this young has a mic, and, you know, there's that appealing effect to say, let me go and inquire, you know, maybe I might actually get to do this. Or even the level of information delivery is appealing to them because they speak the same language. And yeah, they are able to relate. So we focus more on peer-to-peer education in our creative space and the academy. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna leave things there. Thank you to you all for being part of today's discussions. It's clear that there were some buzzwords, if I could say, that encompass some of the sentiments that emerged: localization, literacy, languages, representation, the restoration of agency, access, collaboration, leveraging off some of the platforms that already exist. I could go on and on, but it's also clear that the strides that media in South Africa has taken over the past 30 years has played a role in holding truth to power, in holding you know, power accountable to what they're supposed to deliver on, perhaps also in ensuring that democracy reigns in South Africa. And so we celebrate those strides, but we're obviously going to look at ways to strengthen where to from here as well, as we navigate the next 100 and something years of our country. It's going to get interesting as we edge closer to elections. We're in for a rather interesting rough ride, but it's possible if we unitedly stand. You know, the adage, divided we fall. So again, thank you to you all. We're going to leave it there for now. Lunch is going to be served. The hashtag is MFF2023. Later on at 6 p.m., as I alluded to, there's another session that's going to look at the relevance beyond traditional media. So yes, William, you're pointing at something. Excuse me. Oh, Nomshado, if you could please come up, and then you can conclude everything. Lunch is going to be served thereafter. Thank you.
I'm not gonna stand between the matters of the stomach. I'll be very short. I think you've really wrapped up the conversation, and I think Pumuluma gave us a good challenge, right? Make relevant news interesting, right? So creativity, how do we make it, relevant for you guys to engage with as well? So we've been talking about what's been happening, what's going to be happening for the rest of the week. So I thought I should just go through quickly with the audience here. So we're kickstarting off officially the Media Freedom Festival this evening at 6 p.m. at the very same venue. Today we're looking at media freedom, right? We know that it will survive, but will our media? Then tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m., we've got an exciting AI workshop that we'll be doing. Then later on that evening, 6 p.m., we're going to be dealing with online harms in the lead up to elections. Friday, as we round up the 2 days discussions, we're going to be starting off with a very interesting hate speech workshop and a Rate the Hate challenge. I think I just want to highlight this one a bit because what we're doing here is we're taking quite a complex topic and issue and really trying to give it a 101 and engage the audience in a more informal format, right? So you don't expect a panel discussion. Then later on that evening, we've got Would You Blow the Whistle? Once again, taking a topic of whistleblowing, which we know as something that we're engaging with as media every single day. And once again, bringing it in an informal discussion. So not expecting a panel discussion there as well. Then we're going to be wrapping up the festival and obviously thanking you guys for attending every single day with a cocktail party to just end off the festival. So please do join us for the other discussions. I think we kickstarted off in an amazing way. I'd like to thank Ayabulela, Pagamile, Jermaine, and most importantly, please let's give a round of applause for our Red Rangers Article 12. Because they are showing that, number one, they can speak on issues, they are aware, and they are engaging every single day. And here they are, and I'm actually challenging you to starting conversations with them as we're having lunch. You'll be quite shocked, right? Yeah. So, as I said, lunch will be served outside. We've got options of either sitting here or down close towards the Rose Garden. There you'll see there's a setup. And please